You've got to know how to do this if you want to optimize your triple jumping. I'm referring to the ability to optimize speed transference throughout the jump. Think of a stone skimming across the water after you've thrown it. Well, it's very similar with the triple jump. You've got to hit the ground and create the right momentum for your body to keep skipping forwards. All the great triple jumpers maximize their transference between phases. They learn to work the ground to minimize deceleration and attempt to accelerate between the phases. That ability to pour with the foot and pull it back into the ground contact is crucial. There is some simple drills that you can do that will maximize your transference. If you present your foot in a certain way to the track surface and activate the contact, then you will maximize transference from phase to phase. In my experience, I've found that some jumpers are unable to lift from the hip and then be very distinctive in the way that they push the foot out and away. Although the drills that you're going to see are performed by young athletes, they are relevant to triple jumpers of all ages. Let's start with some basic drills. These are designed to teach the triple jumper the correct positioning of the foot for the transition between the hop and the step phases. It's important that there's a lot of extension from the hip, the knee, and then the foot is presented away from the body and then comes back to the track surface. So this walking pace drill sows the seeds of that specific movement into the jumper's mind. Now, there are lots of these, but with the triple jumper, you want to emphasize the deliberate extension and then pulling back of the foot into the ground contact. You can do these drills alternatively, i.e. left, right, or single-sided. I'll also emphasize some where there is a really high thigh position, a skip forwards and then an extension into the contact. All skipping drills are vital for teaching this phase transition. Here you can see under 17 Angelica just about getting the movements into her actual triple jumping. In a session, I'll often progress from the skipping drills into bounds, partial bounds. Now, bounding itself is a technical skill that needs to be taught, so do check out this particular video on the channel which goes into detail about that. Here, however, we are trying to emphasize the out and back movement of the foot on contact to the ground. As you can see, Adela was beginning to grasp what was required. You'll also notice that in this particular drill, the length of the bounds get longer, and that's another way of trying to teach both the bounding movement and the clawing, pawing movement of the foot as well. After progressing from partial bounds to longer bounds, for example, with the emphasis on the pawing movement of the foot, we can then try to implement the same movement into more faster bounding. So here we're seeing Angelica perform 2 bounds and a jump. And as you can see again, she's beginning to get the movement away from the knee, pushing the foot out and waiting to then contact the ground. Of course, at this point, you've also got to introduce some other technical requirements, such as holding the thigh up in mid-step phase before moving out into the contact. You've also got to start to think about arm action as well. If the arm action is too short, then it's not going to enable the length of the bound to be optimized. Trying to implement the out and back foot movement into the hopping action is much more difficult. And here Angelica's getting to grips with performing 2 hops and a jump whilst trying to get that foot position. You can see that her torso is leaning forwards, and that's going to compromise the ability to extend the thigh and then the lower leg and then the foot into the ground contact. Hopping is another skill which needs to be specifically mastered. You can see here how she's coming down onto the floor, onto the track rather than extending forwards and then pulling back into the contact. Okay, now let's move on to implementing the foot contacts into actual triple jumping. We'll take a look at a sequence of jumps from Adela, and you can see that on this initial attempt it's not too bad. One of the key things that will enable a better foot presentation from the hop is the action of the hopping leg on takeoff, and that should be drawn up quickly behind the body, and then this will enable the thigh to extend higher to the front, which will create a more upright posture, enabling that foot to be extended out into the contact. Rather than think about cycling the leg behind the hip on the hop takeoff, rather counterintuitively pull the leg up, the heel up diagonally, and that will present the thigh in a much better exit position. Moving into the step, she then drives her thigh up and manages to hold position before making a reasonable attempt at extending the foot out into the jump. The mats serving a purpose as a target to try to reach out and strike it. And here you can see Kuria, the Japanese jumper in my group, who's a senior woman, performing an actual triple jump. And you'll see the positions and, importantly, the contacts into the ground between the phases, which is facilitating the continuance of velocity between the phases. If you want to know more about triple jumping, then do check out this particular playlist. And if you've any specific questions on this particular video, then do leave a comment in the section below or through my other social media. At the time of making this video, we're heading into the autumn-winter period, so do look out for specific videos on how to plan your training and how to maximize your preparation throughout the autumn and winter months for the indoor and the outdoor seasons. If you really want to go into great detail about that, then do check out the Coach Athlete Members section of the channel. Head over to the channel's homepage and go to the memberships button. And do like and subscribe, and please share the video amongst your fellow athletes and coaches. And if you're looking for a really fast training shoe that thinks it's a spike, then check out the Antiques Muscle Runners. They've got a carbon fiber plate which propels you forward, springs you out of the contact and adds to the velocity. They've also got TPU foam specifically placed in order to assist with toe off and encouraging a forefoot sprinting motion. A couple of my group members have been trialing them and they are full of praise. Indeed, Abraham and Daniel are number 2 in the country in their respective age groups, and they have attributed some of their success to the Antiques Muscle Runners. Check out the link in the video description or my video that I made which goes into detail on the Antiques. You can also get a 10% discount from the link in the video description. If you like the Jumps Squad merchandise that I often wear in these videos, then do check out the spring store. You'll see the products available underneath this video, for example, and I've launched a new backpack rucksack with the Jump Squad logo on it, so do check that out.